As a matter of fact, as I was walking into Amon Carter, I was out in the parking lot, and I could smell this memo from out there. We're going to take your calls, 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. I'm sorry, when President Trump said they should be ashamed, they ought to be in jail. I'm Rick Roberts. Your call's next on News Talk 820 WBAP. All right, 2:17 the time. I'm Rick Roberts, broadcasting live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. If you get a chance, come by, say hello. Talking about the memo. Don't we have one of the dun-dun-dun? Don't we have something like that? The memo, Lacey, if you can find that. Because every time I say memo, I want to hear that dun-dun-dun because it'll let people know it's very important what I'm saying. Let's go to James. James in Dallas, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Doing well, sir. I've got a quick comment concerning this whole thing. If you kind of take into consideration what came out today and you start to connect the dots, you might understand why there might be reports out there about Trump asking about loyalty, not so much to find out who's with him, but more importantly, to find out who's against him.
Working actively against him.
Exactly. And I'll hang up and listen to the rest of your comments. Thanks, sir.
I appreciate it, James. Well, of course, James is wondering about the memo. Yeah. Exactly. Every time I say memo, you'll hear that because you'll know that I'm saying something very important as it applies to the memo that was just released. So, all right. James, the bottom line is this. I think the whole thing was funded by Hillary Clinton. I think what I want to know, which I'll never know, is what judge signed off on this warrant. And what did he sign off on this warrant based on? I mean, what level of evidence did he see? Well, a good story from a British spy. Okay, all right. There's nothing here. When this thing was released and I looked at it, I literally laughed out loud. I said I was pretty hard on the Democrats yesterday. You know, I don't even have to say anything. All you have to do is look at this and start following, as he said, connect the dots. Everything leads right back to Hillary Clinton's front door. I mean, this is insane. This is insane. There are people at the DOJ. There are people at the FBI. There's certainly people with the Clinton campaign, probably Fusion GPS, that probably need to go to jail. I mean, Comrade Rick Roberts. I guess you can start calling me that because evidently we've fallen into the former Soviet Union. If you've read this memo at all, this is crazy. Matthew and Keller. Matthew, thank you for waiting.
Hi. I read the thing and I had my suspicions, but this shows that they violated their oaths of office.
Yep.
I mean, flat up. And if I was in the military, if you did that in the military, they hang your butt. They don't bother with all the, you're hung. These guys should not be in jail. They should be on the end of a rope.
In the military, there is no, he said, she said, okay, this happened, and here's the cause and effect. With this, as I was just talking, believe it or not, Gary McNamara just walked by from Red Eye Radio, and I fill in for those guys a lot. And we were talking during the break, and, we're never going to know the name of the judge. You'll never, ever know who gave the okay, the rubber stamp for this FISA warrant. Never going to know that. Fusion GPS has covered themselves 6 ways to Sunday. No wonder Trump is upset. And yeah, I'd be asking people within the administration, even peripheral people, hey, what's your loyalty like? What's your loyalty like to this administration? And if you even hesitated, okay, pack your bags, see you later. This is insane. I mean, we have the Democrats. I can see now. I can see why the Democrats don't want you to work, don't want you to start a business, don't want the country to succeed, because this is a blueprint for the USSR. This is the Soviet Union. This isn't America anymore. This is crazy. Matthew, I appreciate the call very, very much. And Matthew's right. They ought to be lucky they're in politics. and that the American people have the attention span of a common housefly, and they'll, get something else going for us to pay attention to tomorrow, the next day, the day after. Chris in McKinney. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, Rick, you are a great American, sir.
Thank you. You are too.
Well, I appreciate it. I like to think so. I love the Constitution. I love the Bill of Rights. I love the country it's founded by our framers. And you know what, Rick, I said this the other day to somebody. I said the modern radical leftist Democrat Party of Hillary and Obama and all the rest of these turds is more dangerous to the United States than a standing invasion army.
I believe that. I believe that because they're trying to kill us from within.
Yeah. And another thing, Rick, since President Trump declassified this memo, Hillary and, as Obama's black liberation theology turd Jeremiah Wright once said, Obama and Hillary's chickens have come home to roost, and the Democrat Party's chickens have come home to roost because, you know what? This is what happens, Rick, when you log jam your river with lies. In other words, Obama and Hillary and the rest of these Democrat slugs like Adam Schiff, Stretch Pelosi, and Schmucky Chucky Schumer, I'm coining that from the great one Mark Levin, and he's accurate when he says that. And, they have log jammed their river with lies, and the American people, and I'm going to tell you something, Rick, there's going to be military tribunals coming about in this country very shortly, and people can say that's, well, Alex Jones, black helicopter crap all they want. But you mark my words, Obama and Hillary, there's a very high probability they're both going to prison for treason. And there's going to be a lot of other Democrats and a handful of Republicans that are also going to go to jail because of this.
Now, all I can say is the inmates at the prison that they'll be sent to better watch out because they'll destroy that place just like they tried to destroy America. Chris, I appreciate the call. I'm Rick Roberts, broadcasting live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. We'll take your calls next, 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Forget Mueller, forget the Russia investigation, forget all of it. We need to start spying on the people we're sitting next to in the nation's capital. Your call, straight ahead.
Former FBI Director James Comey is downplaying the impact of the GOP memo, tweeting, "That's it." He calls the memo dishonest and misleading and charges it destroyed trust within the intelligence community, damaged the relationship with the secret FISA court, and inexcusably exposed classified information. Jerry Bodlander, Washington.
All right. There's nothing to see here. Tip your waitress, drive safe. We'll see you next week. No, I'm sorry. We're not buying that. We're not buying it for a second. This is, I used to live in Alexandria across the bridge from the Capitol. I was hired to try to take Fox TV people and teach them how to do radio. Have you ever had a root canal without anesthesia? That's kind of how that works. Most of you that are listening outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I hear from you every day, welcome. You heard me filling in for Gary McNamara, Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio, which can be heard right here on News Talk 820 WBAP from midnight to 5 a.m. It's a great show. They're great hosts, and what a great audience they've got. Gary McNamara, half of Red Eye Radio, just walked up, and believe it or not, it wasn't, "Hey, Rick, how's it going? Everything going?" It was, "Rick, what do you think about this memo thing?" He's with me right here. Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Rick. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's fascinating because when I got here, my phone started going off in my back pocket, and I just went, okay, but I'm meeting with people and everything else, but I knew the memo had come out. So I went up and read the memo, and then I've come back down, and I've been busy for the last couple of hours. And the one thing that I don't know anything about is what the reaction is. Now, I just heard in my headphone that the report that Comey says there's no there's no big deal there. The one thing, and you and I had the discussion, this is something that I know Eric and I on Red Eye were talking about last May, saying these are the questions that we have, and what has come out in this memo seems, at least, like I said, I just read it once, but seems to me to be exactly what we thought it was. And this isn't the be-all, end-all. To me, this is just the first part of the entire puzzle.
Very beginning. You and I also discussed, if you start connecting the dots, when I was little, when I was small, I love those books that my grandmother would buy. They're just a bunch of dots, and you'd go to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, and then before too long, you got an image. You could see what you were actually doing. That's exactly what this is. This is going to go back to Obama. It's already back to Hillary Clinton. Fusion GPS and the law firm, these people aren't even smart enough to get an arm's length distance from themselves and the people that they're having do the dirty work. I mean, what you talked about in May, what we've been talking about, for most of the year, this is exactly what we thought it was going to be.
I think one of the things is, and you and I were having the discussion just before we went on the air, is how do you simplify this for people to understand the seriousness of it? And it's not that hard to figure it out. You simply look at it and you say, okay, you had the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrats, the DNC, pay an ex-British spy indirectly, but they paid an ex-British spy to get information, unverifiable information or propaganda from the Russians, and then took that to the FBI with the claim that Trump was colluding with the Russians to hack the election. If that's not serious, and James Comey, the ex-FBI director, as I heard in the news report when I just came in, that's the first response I've heard. Yep. If that's his response, tell me who's going to buy that.
We also talked about, Comey has zero credit. Well, at this point, the FBI and the DOJ, neither one have credibility, at least not when it comes to this. Everybody's suspect. You and I were also talking about what it takes to get a FISA warrant. I mean, they don't pass these things out like hall passes. The judge, what did he give this warrant? On what basis did he give this warrant? I mean, you look at this thing, wait a minute, it's all hearsay. There's no factual evidence. There's no put the square peg in the square hole. There's none of that. So, like you said, and accurately so, we're never going to know who the judge was. But everybody is suspect all the way up the line.
And the one thing is, you wonder, this is just, as we said, this is just one piece of the puzzle, and I think it's important for people to understand. Remember Circa.com and Sarah Carter now, who you see on Fox News all the time, she and her associates are the ones that really publicized, when she was with Circa.com, that FISA rebuke of the Obama administration back last May, when the Obama administration, just a week before the election, went to the FISA courts and said, you know how we told you we were going to follow all the rules back in 2011? Well, we really didn't. Well, it took until early May last year where the FISA court rebuked them and said, you broke the law and you violated American citizens' rights. Who are they talking about? Yeah. And what were all of these instances which don't seem to be a part, or I don't know. Is the Carter page included in that? Is it separate?
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's peripheral. I think all of these things are tied with the driving force, the motivating force of doing what? I don't think you have to think too long to figure that out. Whether it was Obama, the DOJ, the FBI, all these peripheral people with one goal: keep Trump out of the White House, put Hillary in. That was what the end game was. But there was so much stuff going on before that, and it's all connected. All of it's connected.
One thing that, and I know we've emphasized it, I know you've talked about it too, is the fact that this, to me, is not about partisanship. This is not about what I believe as to where our tax dollars should go. This is about law enforcement. This is about rights of the United States citizens. This is about the authority and the power that we give certain agencies, really, to protect us from terrorism.
But who protects us from us, from them?
Well, the thing was, who was it? Was it? I can't think of who came out. Was it Comey or McCabe, or somebody's talking about a couple of the senators came out, Democratic senators came out yesterday and said, well, if you do this, if you release this memo, then the FBI and the Department of Justice won't cooperate with Congress anymore.
Wait a minute. You don't have a choice.
Right. Thank you very much.
You don't
My words
have a
exactly.
Choice. This is not your private industry. This is not your private business. We're not your employees. As a matter of fact, it's the other way around. You don't have a choice whether you want to cooperate or not.
The FBI and the Department of Justice and the intelligence agencies are accountable to we the people through our elected representatives, who have, because they are given the authority to do so by the people to know the top secrets that are going on.
Amen.
And so the Department of Justice and the FBI is accountable to Congress, no doubt about it. And anybody who says differently is not being intellectually honest with you.
Well, they're either laboring under sad misconception or they're simply lying. I got to take a break, but first of all, Gary, thanks for. I know you got other things to do other than put headphones on.
I've got to eat. I haven't eaten breakfast yet.
Well, there's plenty of that around here. So it's always a pleasure to sit in.
Thank you so much.
Gary McNamara, Eric Harley, Red Eye Radio
Thank
from
you.
midnight to 5.
Thank you for being our fill-in.
Oh,
we,
man.
we appreciate it. So we get so many great comments when you fill in for us.
Well,
so thank you so much.
It's always my pleasure. You guys do a great show. Midnight to 5 right here on News Talk 820 WBAP.
The memo also alleges that the judge who issued these warrants was not told that the Steele dossier was, one, paid for by Democratic money and was not made aware of the political origins, as the memo alleges, of this information.
Did he think to ask the judge, that is, okay, what evidence do you have to support the claims in this dossier? I mean, I got to be honest with you. I never did criminal law in my life. I did international contracts with people that hated the United States. So, but I would at least know enough to say, okay, wow, this dossier contains some pretty serious stuff. What evidence do you have that these claims are substantiated? What evidence at all? Oh, don't worry about that, Judge. Just go ahead and sign it. We'll take care of it. Well, okay. I need to keep my mouth shut before I have the black Suburbans pulling up downstairs. Judy in Little Elm. Judy, thank you for waiting. How you doing?
Fine, Rex. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay, I have a question for you. I know you're a lawyer, and you just let us know that you were a contract lawyer, but surely you have some feel for it. It seems to me, and I haven't really heard anyone say this, but it seems to me that the people involved in this are guilty of treason and sedition.
Treason.
Or am I jumping to a conclusion here?
First of all, you have to build a case for treason and sedition. There's nothing outright treasonous. There is, in my estimation, there is reason to think that federal law has been broken, and it may lead, based on the type of laws that were broken, it may lead to treason. So no, I don't think you're jumping out of the pan into the fire. I think you're following your instincts, and instincts would tell me, wait a minute, if you're willing to do away with all these federal laws, if you're willing to basically violate your oath, if you're willing to turn your back on the American people for a particular interest, then yeah, that may be headed that way, Judy.
Well, the reason why I came to that conclusion is because of two things. One, they were trying very desperately to manipulate the actual elections and to take over the government and continue on with Obama's lifestyle and plans.
Well, what you would be looking at, what you would be trying to find if you were trying to prove up treason, you were trying to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. Now, they didn't want to overthrow it. They just wanted to own it. You know, the treason is betraying one's country, especially by, overthrowing the government.
Well, I sort of disagree with you. To me, treason would be wanting to take over the government illegitimately.
No, that would be
to me, that's going against the people.
That would be a coup. A coup on the government. Barack Hussein Obama committed numerous acts of what could be, in my mind, interpreted as treason against the United States, and perhaps even more so, the U.S. Constitution, American people. Article 3, Section 3 that's probably what you're talking about. That defines treason in the Constitution against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, something to that effect, giving them aid and comfort. I think you could build a case. You could build a case for what Obama did by this thing, and we've only learned the very, very, very little of what this thing's all about. You know, regardless of who wins the next presidential election, when the FBI is going to arrest Obama for treason and charge and convict him, that's when the American people will stand up and say, okay, you got my trust back again.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's for sure.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
the sedition part. What I drew that conclusion from is the fact that their plan was, according to what some people who read the entire memo, I guess, is that if Hillary did not win the election, that they were going to use this to what do you call it when you take a president out of office?
Impeachment?
To impeach President Trump and disable his ability to be president. So to me, that's sedition because it's all based on lies, and they're trying to remove a legitimate government.
Well, again, sedition, if the legal definition is inciting people or resisting or insurrection against a lawful authority, and certainly a government would fall into that category. See, the problem is that these guys, they play fast and loose with the laws that you and I would certainly have been incarcerated for. But there is sedition. If you go to the Constitution, it's overt conduct like speech or organizing that tends insurrection against the established order, which would be the government at all levels. It includes if you're trying to be subversive of the Constitution, that's where Obama got into trouble, and an incitement or basically a resistance pushing back to lawful authority. That's sedition. So, you look at this stuff, and although they don't do it outright, they almost do it by proxy. That is to say, they do one thing to accomplish something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's I guess I'm taking the words literally. When I purposely looked up the words to make sure that I was applying them correctly.
Right.
And sedition has 3 different definitions, and one of them is the third one was something to the effect of removing a lawful president or leader, either through assassination or physically removing them.
That goes back to the the pushback or the undermining of authority of lawful order.
Exactly.
Lawful order, I think, is what it says in the Constitution. But Judy, I appreciate your call. You're not far off, I don't think. You may not be off at all. Carmen in Aledo. Carmen, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Rick, I'm angry. I've read the memo twice now, and a couple of things that came to mind. In reading the memo, I was unaware of this. Evidently, they, meaning the FBI, actually have to renew that FISA request every 90 days.
Yes, correct.
And that was done multiple times, 3 of which by Comey. And from the way I understand the memo, the primary source was the dossier and newspaper articles, right?
Yes, correct.
So over that period of time, kind of to your point before you just took that last caller, was what was this judge doing? Was he or she on some different planet? Because there was called a question about this dossier in the press, and not once was this thing questioned. I mean, Comey uses this dossier, and in his own words, he described it as salacious and unverified.
Yeah, it would be like you or me, Carmen, going to a judge in the dead of night with a couple of sheets of paper in a file folder and say, Judge, we need a FISA warrant based on this. We got this story out of Reader's Digest, and we need to tap this guy's phone or put him under electronic surveillance because we believe the sanctity, sovereignty, and security of the nation is involved. What's going to happen with this, Carmen? What's going to happen with this whole Russian collusion thing that they found no hard evidence on? With this memo, working backward, any investigator will tell you, how do you do an investigation? You start with a known, right here. This is what we know. Then you reverse engineer it, hopefully, to the point of origin. If they do that, The only person that's going to be guilty of Russian collusion and should probably go to jail for breaking federal laws and perhaps even international law is going to be Hillary Clinton, her campaign, and the peripheral companies and people that were involved.
Yeah, and what's even more troubling, Rick, is this wasn't done just once. So, in the middle of the night with a blank. This was done multiple times. Multiple.
Yep, you're right, Carmen. I appreciate the call very, very much. 2:54 the time. I'm broadcasting live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. I want to thank Gary McNamara with Red Eye Radio for stopping by. Of course, you can catch Gary and Eric Carley on Red Eye Radio midnight to 5 a.m. right here on News Talk 820 WBAP. I'll be back to take your calls. The memo, and the Democrats are saying, well, there's no truth to it. Well, we could have said the same thing about the dossier. Why does it work one way for one group and one way for another? All right, your call, straight ahead. Do I sound disgusted? Yeah, just a little bit. Rick Roberts on News Talk 820 WBAP.
Talk of Texas. Now it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 4 minutes after the hour, 3:04 the time. Rick Roberts with you, the Court of Public Opinion, broadcasting live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. If you happen to be out, stop by, say hello. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Well, the memo's out, and I don't know what else to say. I mean, what else do you need? The Democrats have revealed themselves for who they are. Democrats are enemies of the state. I'm not talking about you necessarily. You're a voter. I'm talking about the Democrats in the nation's capital. They are enemies of the state. They don't want you to work. They don't want your business to succeed. They would rather see America fail rather than Republicans succeed. Just that simple. They would prefer this country go in the dumper, and they'll do anything. Well, I started to say short of sedition or treason, as the last lady said. Short of that, they'll do anything, period. You don't count. I don't count. The only thing that counts for the Democrats in the nation's capital is seizing power. You're expendable. All you have to do is YouTube the State of the Union again. Look at their response on unemployment numbers, on infrastructure, on military, on the victims of violence through illegal immigration. Look at their response. They would rather set their stone-faced, not giving Republicans any quarter, than to stand up and have some empathy for their fellow Americans regardless of the political affiliation. And now this. This is crazy. I've never seen anything like this in the USA. The former Soviet Union, yeah, this was how they operated. But not here. Democrats are the enemy of the state in D.C. Let's go to Andrea in Louisville. Andrea, hi.
Hi, but it's Audrey.
I'm sorry?
My name's Audrey.
Audrey?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay, Audrey.
And I was calling to say that I can't believe that nobody hasn't mentioned that we should have known this was going on when Hillary got away with what she got away with, when Eric Holder wouldn't do anything about black cancers.
Audrey, I tell you what, we've got a horrible connection. Let's put Audrey on hold and see if we can get back with her with a better connection, because between the static and her cutting out, I'm not getting her at all. Audrey, stand by. We'll see if we can get a better connection. David in Forney. David, thank you for waiting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Appreciate everything you do. This may sound a little far-fetched, but I think one has to look at the bigger picture of the conspiracy. My question is, what is the motivation for this Mr. Steele to get involved in this fake dossier? And I think the question goes, the answer goes back about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, when President Trump predicted that Brexit was going to happen, and the powers that be, especially in the European Union, did not want Brexit to happen and predicted all sorts of bad things were going to occur as a result if they pulled out. Well, as we now know, President Trump was correct that Brexit did happen, and lo and behold, there hasn't been a whole lot of bad things that have occurred to Britain as a result of pulling out of the Union. And I really think that you have to take a look at how deep the conspiracy may go as far as the attempts to discredit President Trump and take him down. Former President Obama, as you know, really prefers to be king of the world, and he prefers to do it through the United Nations. If countries are not dependent on their government worldwide, and all of a sudden there's not as much of a need for the United Nations, and the New World Order, which had been touted years ago, would not occur. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, please, sir.
Well, I appreciate the call. I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe black helicopters are hovering just above cloud cover spying on my every move because I'm not that interesting. But in this particular case, there's got to be an agenda. Whether it's a one world order, as is commonly thought about, I don't know. Certainly, it looks like getting countries dependent on one another seems to be a type of motivation. I don't know. When you look at this, this FISA warrant was used by the FBI to monitor President Donald Trump's campaign aide, Carter Page. And he was, the foreign affairs guy. They could not have obtained this warrant without the use of this dossier that we now find out through a chain of events was funded by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign. And that's where I have a problem. What judge would issue a FISA warrant, which is a pretty serious thing, based on innuendo and hearsay? There's not one factual thing in there. Now it's declassified and been released. I'm sitting here playing what if. What if I were a judge and somebody came to me with nothing more than somebody's story and a few other people backing him up? That doesn't work. The information was revealed after Trump agreed today to declassify the memo. Among the 4-page memo was a revelation that a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant would not have been obtained without the use of information contained in that unsubstantiated, non-factual, no evidence anti-Trump dossier financed by Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. So, when it comes to conspiracies, it's not really a conspiracy if it's true. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP.
The president uses this fake, horrible release of distorted intelligence as an excuse to fire Deputy Acting Attorney General Rosenstein or Mueller. It could lead to a constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis? With all due respect, Nancy, you are so out of touch with reality. I don't even know where to start. If the president, if he uses this fake, it's not real. Then it's a constitutional crisis. No, the only constitutional crisis we have at the moment are top-level Democrats in Washington. That's the constitutional crisis. I've never seen anything like it. I'm being quite serious when I tell you, you're in a fight for your country. And it doesn't matter to me whether you're Republican, Democrat, independent, apolitical, doesn't matter. You're in a fight for your country. There is a party, a political party in this country that is working against you, against federal law, against international law, that is trying to do one thing: take this country and all that she represents away from you. They are trying to bury the Constitution in bureaucratic memos and all the rest. The fact is, the Democrats didn't want Trump to be president. And this started long before the campaign, long before. You know, the dirty little secret in Washington is out. The Democrats would rather see the United States of America implode on itself if they are not in power. I'm telling you right now, this is as bad as anything in the former Soviet Union. And you can say, well, that's because you're political bias. It's not bias. If you're a Democrat listening to me right now, this has got to worry you just as much as everybody else. Because the Democrat Party is not working for the constituents. It's working for itself. Okay, let me get to your calls. Let's go to Scott in Duncanville.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I didn't call about this, but when you mentioned Nancy Pelosi the other day, I watched her on an interview the other night with Como, and I actually thought he might have switched sides there for a little while. She was so unable to speak coherently about this thing. It was hard to watch her. I mean, I felt embarrassed watching her because her ability to communicate was so scattered and tattered, and just listening to you kind of poke fun at her the way she talked a few minutes ago brought that back to mind. But
well, I'll say this. I will say this. To be fair, and I wish ill health on no one. I've been through too many things personally with family members. I truly believe, just based on watching her and listening to her speak, and I'm no doctor, don't pretend to be one on the radio, I think she is suffering some kind of medical condition, and I do. I feel sorry for her. But, she's a cog in the wheel that's trying to take this country away from you.
Sure. And I don't want to, I didn't call about that. I want to get to that point. You made a comment a minute ago about when you were talking to your Red Eye radio host friend.
Yeah, Gary McNamara. Yeah.
Yeah, you made a comment in passing that triggered something, and I think it's really important. And you made the comment that, we'll never know who that judge was. And it brings me to a point that I think is a major problem. We've got a bunch of problems right now, but a major problem in our country is with our justice system. The reason we have Black Lives Matter and other groups is because our justice system is broke. There are two different justice systems, one for people like us and one for other people. And I have too many anecdotal stories from friends of mine that have had brushes with the justice system, even down at a real small level, where the judges just ignore the law and get away with it for what appears to be political reasons. And the fact that we can't question this FISA judge bothers me. The fact that we have a Ninth Circuit that is so out of control in their interpretations of our Constitution bugs me. And I really think that an overhaul in our justice system to where we get to elected officials, I don't think any judge should have a right to the bench for life. I just think there's something wrong with that. If for no other reason that a judge can change his mind. He could have been appointed by one person for a reason, and then over the years change his mind, and now he's completely off the wall or whatever, which is what I think.
Well, no, but I mean, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is the most overturned court in the United States. There has been talk about breaking it up into 2, maybe 3 different districts, but it's a joke. If you find out that you're going to the Ninth Circuit, think of the most liberal thing you can think of, and that's probably what you're going to get.
That are destroyed, though. That's why I don't agree with hardly. Black Lives Matter bothers me as an organization, but I think at a core part of why they exist is because of inequity that has occurred in their society, in their world, and I agree with that part of what they're fighting for. That we've got to get back to a justice is blind scenario, because it's not anymore. And I think that when we have people like those who sit on the Ninth Circuit, those judges that cannot be removed, no matter how wrong they are, and everybody knows they're wrong, and there's nothing we can do about it, that's wrong fundamentally. We've got to have a process. Maybe Maybe we make a separate court that just deals with that kind of a problem. I don't know.
Well, Scott, I appreciate the call, but this is how it works. You know, the scandal over the National Security Agency's surveillance of not only Trump campaign aides, but Americans in general, kind of highlights the nation's, listen to this, it's the nation's most top secret group of judges. They're all a part of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It's called the FISA Court. That court's made up of 11 judges drawn from, different federal courts who approve the government's request for warrants. If they want to tap your phone to listen in on conversations in the U.S., the vast majority of the judges who sat on that court are Republicans. Now, there are various reports. There is a detailed story on the FISA court judges in Reuters, if you're so inclined to look it up. But since FISA was enacted, and it was in the late 70s, I don't recall when, we've had 3 chief justices, and they've all been conservative Republicans. So I think, you can worry that there's insufficient diversity to some extent. But the American University law professor, he looked at this. He did a study on this. The judges on that court include Roger Vincent, who struck down Obamacare, Susan Weber Wright, who presided over the Paula Jones harassment case against Bill Clinton, John Bates, I think that's right, Bates, prosecutor in that Clinton-era Whitewater scandal, former prosecutor, and I don't recall her first name, but her last name's McLaughlin, the only Democrat. And the FISA judges stop working on their normal cases every couple of months, and then they go to Washington, where they sit down in a room with no windows, and they question prosecutors and federal agents. And before this thing came into being, the federal government used to wiretap Americans who allegedly threatened national security. They didn't have to get a warrant, believe it or not. The FISA court was established after the Supreme Court said that, wait a minute, you can't just wiretap anybody you want. That's illegal. That court has changed a lot since the terrorist act of 9/11. If you look at it, before 9/11, the government had to get a warrant based on suspicions about a specific individual. Now the FISA court doesn't get involved in the specifics of who's being surveilled. Instead, the FISA court is just reviewing a problematic level. That's level 1. Is the government targeting only international communications, or is it targeting domestic ones? That's the only question that FISA asks, believe it or not. In short order, another source has said, the FISA court's been damaged. It's been damaged beyond repair. I don't know about that. But Reggie Walton, I think his name is, he's the FISA court senior judge. He rejects the idea that the court doesn't ask enough questions. Well, if you're only asking one, that's not very many. He said the perception that the court is a rubber stamp is absolutely false. There is a rigorous review process of applications submitted by the executive branch that is looked at initially by 5 judicial branch lawyers who are national security experts, and then by judges to ensure that the court's authorizations align themselves with what the statutes authorize. Okay, good. Tell us who they are. Tell us who they are. That's a short FISA Court 101, but none of it's good enough to answer the questions I've seen in this memo. How in the world did they ever get a warrant based on that dossier, based on that once upon a time story that somebody came up with off of a British spy with no factual evidence? How'd that work? All right. We'll step aside very quickly. Eric Bushman standing by in the WBAP newsroom, and we'll take your calls. 1-800-2... I got a question. This one answers itself. Do you trust your government to make the right decisions, left or right? 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Your calls next.
Trending now on WBAP. President Trump releases FISA memo.
The memo was sent to Congress. It was declassified. Congress will do whatever they're going to do. I think it's a disgrace what's happening in our country. And when you look at that and you see that and so many other things, what's going on, a lot of people should be ashamed of themselves, and much worse than that.
Well, I don't think that it's appropriate for Leader Pelosi or myself to give the White House advice on HR policy. I would extend an olive branch to Leader Pelosi and say that this is the time for bipartisanship. We should evaluate the politicization of the highest levels of our government, not in terms of its existing facts, but on what we need to do going forward so that this type of thing never happens again.
Yeah, it's never going to happen again. I promise. I promise it's never going to happen again. You know, if I see one more politician standing in front of a TV camera, you know, I'm for the hard-working people of America. Shut up. You're for the party, and the party only, or you wouldn't make some of the goofball decisions that you make. See, the problem is the same base problem we've had for decades. The government in Washington, they don't believe they work for you. They believe you fund them. They know better where to educate your kids, what you should eat, where you should go to college, where you should work, how much you should make. That's not what the government was supposed to do, not by a long shot. No, we need to drain the swamp until there's about 3 or 4 guys left sweeping up and emptying trash, and fill it again with people that realize they work for the American people, not the other way around. Let's go to Ed in Ennis. Ed, thank you for waiting. How you doing?
Fine, Mr. Roberts. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Oh, good. I've been listening. Well, I catch the last end of your show for about 20 minutes, and and when I have the opportunity, I listen to Rush and Mark Levin and all these people. And I'm a Republican, true to the core. My question is, and that's a big if this starts from the top down with our past president, and let's go through, you know, Rahm Emanuel and Loretta Lynch and
Eric Holder
and Eric Holder and Hillary Clinton and Toomey and all this. What are, and I want to, nobody's ever explained this, what are the ramifications that can happen? I mean, I realize we can't strip the resident of his title as a past president. I know we can't strip him of that, but what else can happen? Now I've got a conspiracy theory, and then I'll hang up and listen to you on the radio for all the answers.
Sure.
Conspiracy theory is the way the stock market has tanked today. I think that all the Democrats have realized they're cashing in and running scared because they're all fixing to go to jail. I'll let you go, sir.
All right. I appreciate the kind words, Ed. You know, the bottom line, if you realize, if you come to a point in your observation and deduction of what is happening around you, that the Democrat Party is no longer a party, a legitimate political party for the people of America, then it starts to make sense. If you looked at the reaction by the Democrats, you know, the two families that lost their daughters to the horrific MS-13 illegal gang that came into this country illegally, no response. By the way, both those families were African American. Not one member of the Congressional Black Caucus stood to support them, plot nothing. When you finally see what the Democrat Party is about, it's about the party. It's about seizing power. It's about control. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about the country. It's about them. And I'm no world historian by any stretch of the imagination, but if you look back at other countries where you had many times warring factions against each other for control of the central government, you will see one will rise, one will be defeated, and the faction that takes over basically is a dictatorship over the people. That's precisely what the Democrat Party in Washington, I'm not talking about the Democrats that are listening to me, You have to live on the same block and work at the same place that I do. You don't want this any more than anyone else. But at the end of the day, if you look at what's happening, the Democrat Party ignoring federal laws, ignoring judges' orders, ignoring what they took an oath to do, but more importantly, ignoring the blueprint for America, the Constitution of the United States, treating it like an afterthought instead of a boilerplate for running a country. Once you get to that point, you can no longer be trusted. I don't care if you're a judge in the FISA court or an attorney general, or it doesn't matter, or a president for that matter. That's what we need to be worried about. I have never in my adult life been as concerned about the future of America as I am now. As far as I'm concerned, I will work tirelessly to keep Democrats out of any office I can, unless they can prove to me that their first and only issue is taking care of the people that live within the borders of this country. And I have not seen that. Nancy Pelosi is just about as goofy as they come. She has out and out lied to the American people, probably lying to herself. Chuck Schumer, I don't know what his agenda is other than to seize power. And, I don't mind giving power to someone as long as I know that they know what to do with it and working in the best interest of the people of America. That is not the Democrats in Washington, D.C. Good call. I appreciate it very, very much. Let's go to David. David, where are you calling from?
Hey, Rick. I'm in Pottsboro.
Good to have you.
Hey there. Well, what I think needs to happen next, now that this memo has come out with incriminating evidence, I think a special prosecutor needs to be appointed to investigate whether or not there was and is treason collusion between the Democratic National Committee, Hillary Clinton, the Justice Department, the FBI, and Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Because I think we're in the middle of a possible coup d'etat here.
Well, David, who's going to investigate the special investigator?
I don't know, but I think we need someone to investigate this whole matter and get to the bottom of it.
Well, I don't know where I heard it, but what I hope to see, you've got so many investigations going on and so much bias in Washington. I want everything to be put on hold. Let's look at one issue at a time, one investigation at a time, thoroughly vet it, come to a conclusion, then move on to another investigation. Because they're doing what they always do in D.C. You can't feel one way or the other about an investigation or about charges because they've got so much going on. It's like a three-ring circus. You don't know where to look first, and that's not by coincidence. That's by design.
Yeah, my point is I think we need to get this fully investigated, and the Congress needs to act because this is a danger to our national security.
Well, it's a danger to the future of America, period.
Yeah, they want to unseat a duly elected president. It's a political coup d'etat, and it is nothing less than that. We need to get an investigation into this whole matter. Another special counsel needs to be appointed. I don't know who would do it. The Justice Department or, I don't know, the Congress. But
well, David, I appreciate the call. That's not a half-bad idea. Let's do this. Instead of having the criminals investigate the criminals in D.C., let's put together a citizen oversight committee. Now, and that's a sad commentary on where we are, but that's where we are. We need a citizen oversight committee to oversee everything that's going on in the nation's capital. And I mean that as sure as I'm sitting behind this microphone. I don't trust any of them. And quite honestly, that goes for the left and the right. All right, let me step aside very quickly. Let's check your afternoon drive, and I'll come back and take your calls. The memo has been released, and just like the optics at the State of the Union speech, everything goes right back to Hillary Clinton. Everything goes right back to her. And if it's like everything she touches is tainted. a dossier about hookers relieving themselves on beds in hotels. And really, you issued a FISA warrant based on that without any factual evidence? Well, the guy, he's a British CIA guy. He knows what he's doing. He's a spy. And you know those spies, you ever watch that James Bond? Oh, he was good. Okay. Give it a rest. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP.
And not be concerned. Did the FBI and Department of Justice, did they abuse their power in a presidential election? That is a serious question.
Oh, man. Where do you go from here? It's just you and me. It really is. Hi, what's your name? Liz, nice to meet you. What's that?
She works for KSCS.
Okay, all right, KSCS. That's one of our sister stations. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Say hello to everybody. Say hi. There you go. All right. As I think about this, it's really just you and me. That's what's left. We have no representation in Washington any longer. Now, I want you to think about this just for a second. On the face of it, that sounds a little nuts. It sounds a little Nancy Pelosi, doesn't it? We don't. We have representation in Washington as long as we're going along with their status quo. Do you see what I'm saying? As long as we don't cause any problems, don't cause any rifts, don't cause them any problems, they put up with us. They put up with us. They abide whatever little thing it is that we're griping about. We don't know the half of what goes on in D.C. because we advocated our responsibility for far too long. We were fat, happy, lazy, complacent, apathetic, and we simply, well, that guy in the 5 o'clock news, he's wearing a tie. He must be a smart guy. He's in Washington, after all. These guys are no smarter than you. And one thing that we haven't figured out, they're working on behalf of themselves, their respective parties. They're not working on behalf of you and your kids and your neighborhood and your schools and your place of employment. And if you don't believe me, just go back in YouTube and watch the optics, the visuals of the State of the Union. Don't even listen to Trump. How can a president be so successful in his first year and still remain so unpopular? Because there's a campaign against him. Against him. Well, a campaign against our president that is being successful in his legislation and tax reform and all the rest, that's a campaign against you. All right, let's go to Gerald in Hubbard. Gerald, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Good, sir. Good, sir. Hey, just wanted to let you know about a year ago I was looking for Sean Hannity on the radio. Stumbled across you and been listening ever since.
Well, I appreciate that. Sean's a friend, but I'll take his listeners any day.
Well, I still record it, so I watch him when I get home. But, hey, I wanted to say real quick, you remember that movie, Enemy of the State?
Yes.
When you said those words, because I read that FISA, I downloaded that FISA this morning, and I read it, and I instantly popped into my mind that movie. And all the tangents to that are kind of scary. And then when you said those 4 words, I was like, I wonder if he's thinking the same thing I am.
I hadn't thought of the movie. I'm not a big movie guy. I do watch them from time to time, but I did watch that movie, and you know what? There's a lot of similarities.
There are. It's kind of scary.
Well, the scary part is that we think through the process of a free and open and independent election that we've got control, when in fact we've got no control of anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, I always knew down deep that the government was kind of corrupt, but I never knew exactly how bad. And I mean, think about how scary it would have been if, the other party would have won.
Oh.
We'd have never known about any of this.
You and I wouldn't have been having this conversation. I would have taken the first boat off this rock had Hillary been elected.
Switzerland would have looked mighty good at that point.
I tell you, what a nightmare that would have been. Gerald, I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the listenership. And please, give me a call again. 3:54 the time. Eric Bushman standing by in the WBAP newsroom. Are you as concerned? Are you as I won't say fearful, because that somehow in some way implies that you're weak on it. And I know the American people and certainly the American spirit's not weak. But are you as concerned about the future of this country as I am? And just because you're a Republican doesn't necessarily mean, if you're in D.C. listening to me, doesn't necessarily mean you get a pass. Nobody gets a pass anymore. If you're in D.C., you're all suspect. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Oh, there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 4 minutes after the hour, 4:04 the time. Lee, if you would, bring that music down a little bit, because I want to get this in here real quick. You know, I've been doing this a long time, both television and radio for a couple of decades. I thoroughly love it. I love it as much today as I did the day I started, probably more, because I at least know what I'm doing now. And I have always been open to the other side, whether it was politically, socially, whatever it happened to be. You know, and it was one of those things where, look, I know Democrats and Republicans are going to have a difference of opinion on different legislation, on different social issues. You know, we all pray to a God, or most of us do. We all, at some point or another, had a family, or we all make our decisions and our evaluations based and filtered through the lens of whatever experiences we've had, right? But I have always on my shows tried to be open to both sides. I may not agree. As a matter of fact, I may have a visceral reaction to someone's point of view. But that doesn't mean they don't deserve to be heard, because if you only talk to people that agree with you, then you're going to get a pretty slanted view of the world. But I have to tell you, the State of the Union, the visuals I saw, and then saw again because I sought it out, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, when it comes to Hillary Clinton, I believe she is absolutely as corrupt as any politician ever thought about being. You know, we talk about Bill Clinton did this and Bill Clinton did that. Bill Clinton couldn't shine Hillary's shoes when it comes to corruptness. You know, I've worked in Washington. I know congressmen. I talk off the air with some of these people from time to time. You know, I've even traveled with them during town halls. And I won't name names, but you would know who the names are. And I have seen the frailties of professional politicians. I mean, no one's perfect. I don't expect perfection. But when I watched that State of the Union, and I saw Democrats not standing for the national anthem, not applauding at the fact that more Americans were going to work, not applauding for legislation that was passed that helped this country move forward, wouldn't even stand in recognition of families that had lost a child due to illegal immigration. And that one guy from North Korea that spent 2 years on crutches trying to seek freedom, and when he was captured, would not deny the fact he was Christian. That was a death sentence. He should have been dead. Not one Democrat, maybe one. Democrats sat on their hands, which told me one thing, and one thing only. They would rather see America fail. They'd rather see you and I fail than see Republicans win. That's too partisan. That's too partisan to sit on the fence any longer. You know, if you're a Democratic voter, if you vote Democrat, you know, you and I probably could sit down and have a cup of coffee and disagree about some things and agree about some other things. That's the way life is. That's the way human beings interact. But not in the nation's capital. It is the most incestuous, corrupt place you have ever seen. And to some degree, we probably allowed that by advocating our responsibility and not holding people accountable. But no matter how it got there, that's where it is. So as I watch those optics and the Democrats stone-faced in the face of heroic patriotism, in the face of Christianity, in the face of legislation that put people to work, it became abundantly clear. I'm not speaking to you in the audience if you're a Democrat. I'm speaking to your representatives in D.C. It became abundantly clear they wish above all else to seek power and to gain power. And in the face of the opposition party, they are willing to destroy this country if they can't have the power, or even if they have to share it with someone else. Friends, that's not democracy. That's a dictator in waiting. And then the last straw was probably the memo. As I said, I'm not a criminal attorney. I've never sat in a courtroom one day defending or prosecuting anybody. But I have more than a passing knowledge of the law. And I'm telling you right now, you could sit down with a high school student, go over that memo, and everything lands squarely at the doorstep of the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton. You know, maybe the DOJ or the FBI or this campaign aid or that campaign aid, but everything springs forth from Hillary or the DNC. Now, I'm not saying this to say I want Hillary in jail. You know, if there were laws that were fair and just, Hillary would have been under the jail a long time ago, along with a lot of others, including some Republicans. But at the end of the day, this is not about Hillary. This is about the Democratic leadership in the nation's capital willing to let this country go under, including all of you, Republican or Democrat, rather than see Republicans succeed. And I can't abide that. I can't. From now on, a Democrat's going to have to show me that he's working on behalf, or she is going to have to show me that they're working on behalf of the people of this country in their best interest first. Because after all, they are, whether you want to believe it or not, whether they want to believe it or not, they are employees of the American people. You are not the employees of your political party's leadership in the nation's capital. You don't work for them. They work for you. And that message has been lost. As a matter of fact, that message is no longer relevant to those that live and supposedly work on our behalf in Washington, D.C. And if we don't get that message back and put it in front of everything else, and I'm talking legislation, congressional bills, doesn't matter. The message is, you work for the American people, and just saying it doesn't make it so. If I had a nickel for every time I heard a politician on the left or the right tell me, well, this isn't on behalf of the American working people, shut up. Show me with your actions. Don't give me your lip service. The American people are no longer neophytes in the way that Washington, D.C. works. And we're not going to stand for it. We're never going to stand for it. Because to stand for it, to abide it, to allow it, is the ruination of this country and our children's future. You can mess with a lot of things with me. I mean, you can. You can mess with my job and boycott this and boycott that, and I hate this and I hate that. And you can even mess with my horses if you want. But you don't mess with my kids. Ever. Under any circumstance. And that's precisely what Democratic leadership in Washington, D.C. is doing. You're messing with my kids' future. Won't have it. I won't have it. All right, when we come back, your calls and nothing but your calls in the court of public opinion. I'm Rick Roberts on News Talk 820 WBAP.
one of the damaging parts of this is that would you share intelligence with the United States of America if you thought that in a very political way, Republicans, one party in the Congress, should decide, I'm going to distort the facts and put this out because it serves, I am a stooge for the President of the United States, and that's exactly what Chairman Nunes is.
That, of course, is Nancy Pelosi, laboring under so many sad misconceptions, I don't know where to start. Nancy Pelosi, you are nuts. You are absolutely out of your ever-loving mind, and you are lying to the American people. Dennis in Fort Worth. Dennis, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Dennis?
Hey, brother, I'm doing good. I just want to make a couple of statements, get off the air, and listen to your thoughts. You know, there's a term in poker called going all in.
Right.
You shove all your chips in the middle and you're going for it. Well, that's what the Democratic Party did. You know, this isn't politics, sir. This is a crime. And they want to call everything politics. This is criminal. Some heads need to roll. Some people need to go to prison. This is a modern-day coup without ever firing a shot, sedition, or treason, whatever you want to call it. Sir, some people need to go to prison. We don't need investigations that run on forever and never come to a conclusion. Some people need to go down.
I don't disagree, Dennis, and I'm telling you right now, if the Democrat voters in this country would get on board, we could straighten this out, because Democrats, as good as they are at galvanizing around legislation or a politician, even when they know he or she is wrong, one thing is always clear. They're willing to throw their own under the bus anytime they think it means a vote. And the only way you're going to get anything done is if Republicans and Democrats alike, and I'm talking about the voters, I'm not talking about in D.C., if Republicans and Democrats say, that's enough, we've had it. We put a billionaire real estate developer in the White House. We can certainly take these people that have been there since dirt. We can take them out. To me, that's the only way it's going to change.
And, I hope the day that she has a stroke, I hope it's on national TV.
Well,
I would love to see her stroke out on national TV.
No, you wouldn't,
I know how
Dennis.
That sounds.
No, you wouldn't.
She would.
No.
But you know what?
Don't wish
like
that on
said,
anybody.
She lies. She manipulates. The lady's crazy. And the way they all looked sitting there at the SOTU and Trump was speaking, this hatred, evil look in their eyes like they could care less. The gig's up. They need to file some charges. Some people need to go to prison. This is our government. They work for us. They are supposed to answer to us, and they don't. And it needs to come to an end. This needs to be when it begins.
No, Dennis, I don't disagree. I appreciate the call. Like I said, they believe part of this problem, and I truly believe this because I was there. People that work in D.C. live in a bubble, absolutely, just like undergraduate professors at colleges and universities live in an academic bubble. Nothing really touches them because they live in this bubble. They deal with subordinates all day long that dare not question anything they say. Well, it's even worse in D.C. They live and work in D.C. or across the bridge in Alexandria. Everybody's playing the same dirty game. Everybody has the same dirt on them that the other guy has, and it's just a matter of tennis. Whose turn is it to serve? That's what goes on in D.C. And I got to say, Dennis, to some degree, it's our fault. When we got so fat, happy, lazy, complacent, jobs were good, everybody was getting a home, everything was fine, just like the, in a microcosm, just like the real estate market in California. People were refinancing their homes for twice what they bought them for. I mean, it was ridiculous. And all of a sudden, your neighbor had a new boat, pair of jet skis, new motorcycle, new car, new trucks. It just went on and on and on, and then the bottom fell out. And all of a sudden, every third home on the block was in foreclosure. Well, that's essentially what's happened with political representation. They had their way for so long. They could do no wrong. They couldn't get arrested if they tried because they were politicians. Well, the bottom fell out. The bottom fell out, and that's what allowed Trump to sit in that Oval Office. And the bottom is still falling out. They just haven't got the memo yet. No pun intended. But we've got the memo. We realize, based on what we saw and what we didn't see in that State of the Union, based on that memo, which, Nancy Pelosi can say, well, it came from outer space and the alien couldn't be trusted, which would not surprise me at all to hear her say. She's just out of touch, like so many are, even on the right. We've got to take it back. Trump was just the first step. Katina, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Katina?
Good. How are you, Rick?
I'm good.
Good. Well, I had a couple things to say, but when I watched the State of the Union, I think the Democrats look like a bunch of cold-hearted, bratty children, personally. But that was painful. But I really wanted to talk to you today to tell you what would help me to have some more trust in our government.
Okay.
But when I wrote some notes, I would forget it. But if there were some repercussions, or if both sides of the aisle started holding people accountable, that would help me trust them a little more. I mean, we might not get prison, but, something like timeout. I know they don't do timeout, but, something, fines, losing something, public shaming, admitting that they're wrong to the public, losing something. I mean, it's got to hurt, and both sides have to be a part of that and holding people high up accountable. Because, I mean, like some of the previous callers said, they can do all these investigations and it will go nowhere, and I'm not going to have trust in either side until some people start paying for it.
Katina, I couldn't agree with you more. Katina basically is saying once both parties start holding their own people accountable, not covering for them, not making excuses for them, not lying about the other side in order to, deflect your attention. Until that happens, nothing's going to change. We're not going to trust government. And you're right, Katina. Very good call. I appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. I'm Rick Roberts, 424 the time. Your call straight ahead. The memo's been released. The optics have been seen at the State of the Union. What's it going to take for you? What's it going to take for you to trust your government? By the way, if anybody's listening to me from D.C., here's a flash. Nobody trusts you, Republican or Democrat. Okay? Yeah, if you didn't get that, if you hadn't got that already, which based on some of the decision-making you've done here lately, it wouldn't surprise me. Wait a minute, the people don't trust us? No, we do not. What's it going to take to get the trust back? Listen to the people. Next on News Talk 820 WBAP.
Our memo is a detailed 10-page memo that not only rebuts point by point the falsities they've put forward, but it also brings to light new unseen evidence that the door has been opened to because of what they're alleging, and that the public would learn for the first time.
That's good. Release it. Release the Democratic response to the memo. One thing Democratic leadership in D.C. is extremely good at is lying. Lying to themselves, lying to the American people, lying to the opposition party. Let it go, let it out. Let the American people see it, and let us investigate. I know that sounds crazy. Why not? You got investigators investigating investigations. Put it all out there. Release everything. Let the American people see it, sit down, vet it, investigate it. We'll investigate it. We'll investigate it. You don't even have to worry. You don't need a special prosecutor. You got over 300 million of them here in America. Let's go to Chris. Chris in Fort Worth. How you doing?
That's right.
All right. Somebody put Chris on hold, and let's go to Rita in the colony. Rita, thanks for waiting.
Thanks, Rick. I want to know if the people, Rod Rosenstein, was on the Obama administration before he was on the Trump. Because I think Mueller and him worked on the, what's it called? What they sold to the Russians.
Oh, the plutonium deal?
All right. I think Rosenstein and Mueller
were part of the people that worked on the sale of the uranium, aren't they? To the Russians. Didn't he work on the Obama administration before he was on the Trump?
Well, yeah, he was part of the holdover. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I think this is all to get Trump out, and from the very beginning.
Well, yeah, Rita, I appreciate the call. There's no question about it that all of this is being motivated by the ouster of the current president. The Democrats did not take Hillary Clinton losing lightly. Everything is directed at impeaching the current president. Yeah, but Rick, I've got a job. Rick, I can hold on to my house. Rick, the economy's booming. Rick, we're now exporting oil instead of being dependent on foreign oil. It doesn't matter. I told you, the Democrats are willing to let America fail if it means the Republicans succeed. That's what this has always been about. Always been about. Now, I will say this, Rita, had I been able to have the president's ear, I would have said, look, it is so corrupt, it's not even funny. I mean, there are so many ghosts under the bed that you won't be able to count them all. When you take office, you let go every single Obama staffer that's out there. Let them all go. Well, Rick, that's not fair. No, it's not fair. But it's the only way you can protect yourself. Because you don't know who is working with who and who's doing what under the table and what deal they've cut with. Just when you walk in, anybody that worked under the Obama administration, clean house, drain the swamp, to use your verbiage. That's what I would have told him. And that's not like me. I believe in giving everybody a second chance, even a third chance. And, I try to look for the best in all people. But in the political game, you can't do that. You can't be there's too much to be gained by individuals and parties. If he'd have walked in there and said, how you doing? I'm Donald Trump. A lot of you don't like me. I get that. At the end of the day, this is not an ego thing. If you work for the Obama administration, you've got till the end of the week. Clean out your desk. I wish you nothing but well. If you need a reference letter, let me know. That's what I would have done. I mean, that's the only way he had to protect himself. And he didn't do it. And I think he's paying the price for it. This would have gone on anyway. That would not have stopped what the Democrats are doing. But at least it would have slowed it down a little bit. Let's go to Ron. Ron in Fort Worth. Rita, thank you for the call. Ron, how are you?
I'm well, Rick. How are you today?
Good.
Good. Hey, the reason I'm calling is I'm very upset as I spent some time this afternoon looking at the websites of some of the different media outlets. And one of the ones that really just infuriated me was CBS News, their website. One of their reporters covering the memo said, here's some things that is not in this memo. There's no crime here. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? The Fifth Amendment says that every person has a right to be secure in his person, paper, and effects, except when there's a warrant by a judge.
Right.
And the whole point of all of this is that this FISA warrant was deceptively obtained. That's what all this is about.
Well, Ron, it could have been deceptively obtained, but if they got the FISA warrant based on the dossier from a British spy, it was hearsay. It wasn't factual evidence. There was no basis for the FISA warrant. I mean, I want to know, what knucklehead judge came up and said, oh, that's a good story. Here's a FISA warrant to tap his phone. That doesn't make any sense. I was born at night, but not last night. If I'm a FISA judge, I'm going to say put facts on the table in case it's called into question later. He didn't do that. Obviously, he didn't do that. He took a look at this report. What, hookers? Wait a minute. And what did they do? This is crazy, Ron. And as much as we are in a different political landscape in the year 2018, we're in a different media landscape in 2018. They're not even pretending to be unbiased. They're not even pretending to be news people. It used to be the who, what, when, and where. Now it's the who, the what. Well, let me explain it to you. I don't want that. I just want the facts.
Absolutely. If I could say one other thing, Rick, if you read that memo, they didn't just get a FISA warrant. They had to extend it for 90 days, 3 different times. That means for a year they were listening to Carter Page's communications. And the things that I would want to know is, well, exactly what's in that FISA warrant in terms of, were you listening just to his cell phone? Were you listening to office phones that were in Trump Tower? Were you looking at his email? And then that opens up a whole lot of who else were you listening to while you were listening to his phone?
Yeah.
For a year.
Yep.
They were spying on him for a year. And when these guys get upset about Watergate, and they say Watergate was Nixon throwing some guys into the Watergate Hotel to find out some few facts about the DNC back in the 60s, they were spying for a year, and CBS News wants to pan that and say that's not a crime. This is ridiculous, and we've got, as the American people, we've got to let these media types know this is not acceptable. Get in there, and as you were saying, Rick, do your job.
Do your job. That's all you got to do. And if you don't want to do your job, no hard feelings, but hit the bricks.
And the Democrat, I mean, this has got to be looked into because this is serious. When you start spying on your political opponents for the purpose of removing them,
right.
And as you've been talking about, that's what this is all about. We cannot trust the electoral system, and this is fundamental to the safety of our Republican form of government.
I couldn't agree more, Ron. I appreciate the call very, very much. What's it going to take for the government to regain your trust? Man, I don't even know if I can see that zip code. They've got to do a lot more than appoint. Well, we've got a special prosecutor. Really? Well, who's going to investigate him to see where his bias is? I'm telling you, there's nobody in D.C. to trust on either side of the aisle. Citizen Oversight Committee. I think that if the founding fathers, if Jefferson was talking to Franklin and they were all sitting around going, man, what a mess. We had no idea we'd cause this at some point in the future. What's it going to take? Shall we get the Democrats to do? No. That's where the problem is. The Democrats and some Republicans. You get a Citizen Oversight Committee, the people that have to live, work, recreate, hand off to another generation every goofy decision that these politicians come up with. The only way to do this is a Citizen Oversight Committee. Well, Rick, now see, the citizens aren't smart enough. Man, I don't even want to hear that. I don't even want to hear it. There's not one congressman or senator I wouldn't debate on this show about anything. And you could say the same thing. Now, you may not be able to file the appropriate legal documents in a court, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about common sense or the lack thereof. We're talking about how you live, how you work, what you give to your kids when it's your time to take a pass. That's what we're talking about. Don't give me this garbage. Well, we'd tell the American people what's going on, but they just wouldn't get it. Man, don't say that to me. I talk to them every day for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, every month, month after month, for decades. Don't you dare tell me the American people can't figure it out. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Of a single FISA application involving Carter Page and its renewals that cherry picks information that doesn't tell the reader the whole of the application and is, as the DOJ and FBI have said, deeply misleading and factually inaccurate.
Okay, well, I don't know what I'm looking at. I need one of those politicians to help me figure out how to walk and chew gum at the same time. Are you buying any of that garbage? Yeah, the renewals come up every, I think, 3 months, something like that. And they did that, 3, 6, 9 months, plus the previous 3, that'd be a year. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I want to thank Gary McNamara with Red Eye Radio for stopping by and saying hello. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, they are heard every single night, Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, Sunday through Thursday, I should say. midnight to 5 right here on News Talk 820 WBAP. And when the guys are away, I fill in for them. It's always a pleasure. But Gary stopped by and said hello. We appreciate that very, very much. All right, let's go to Ted in Louisville. Ted, how you doing?
Hey, Rick. How's it going?
Good.
Hey, Rick. I called in because, I've been listening to you guys for a long time, and I watched everything going on the other day with Donald Trump, and I don't understand why, as Americans and Republicans, why can't we get the people, the Democrats, out of office? I mean, I don't understand why, if they're going to sit on their hands, kick their sorry behinds out of office. Why do we continue to let this happen? I thought we were cleaning out the swamp and getting rid of the Democrats that don't want to do anything and don't want to help us. I'm a veteran. I was the veteran that was homeless here a while back, and I'm still hearing more and more and putting up with more and more of the Democrats, disrespectfulness and stuff to veterans and everybody. It's time that we rise up as a country and as veterans and everything else and Republicans and get these people out of the office and punish them and do away with them and put people in the office that will serve us.
Well, Ted, first of all, I'm glad to hear you're doing better. I appreciate your service. And it's a damn crime what the government did to our vets, the ones living underneath overpasses, standing in soup lines, families living on food stamps. They held up their end of the contract. When they went in the military, the government didn't hold up their end. And I hear this all the time. We need to take more refugees. We need to be more benevolent. We need to be more caring. It's an American value to reach out and help people. Look, I got no problem putting a sandwich in a starving kid's hand. That's not the issue. But when you've got vets that need mental help, need physical help, need guidance, need training, they went and they did exactly what they said they do. They didn't want to die, but they were willing to if they had to. They come back home and the government is talking about, well, we need more people from Syria. Hey, how about taking care of the vets that came home like you said you do under contract? I tell you what. When no more military families are living on food stamps or in government housing, when no more vets are standing in a soup line at some mission, when no more vets are camping out underneath the overpass because they've got no place to sleep, then you can talk to me about bringing more refugees over. That didn't mean I'm hard-hearted. That just means I prioritize, and the government needs to as well. Ted, the short answer to your question is the Republicans are learning how to win again. For a long time, they couldn't figure out how to put one foot in front of the other. And yes, I'm a conservative, but I'm also an independent. And the Republicans, if they could find a way to lose it, they would. And now they've got the majority in both houses. They've got the White House, a record number of governorships from coast to coast, and we've still got this going on. Here's the problem, Ted. To change anything long term, it's going to take more than just Republicans. I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about in D.C. People, American people, Republican, Democrat, independent, apolitical, it doesn't matter. They've got to stand up together, galvanized as a nation, with one voice and say, we're done. We're done with you living off the backs of American working people. We're done with your government giveaways. We're done with entitlements. If somebody needs help, we'll help them. But we're not basically going to enslave people as dependents on the government just in order to make your party bigger or make the government bigger. Because that's what it takes. It takes more people dependent on government for government to increase in size and scope. That's what the Democrats want. They want you to be dependent. I don't want you to be dependent. I want you to have opportunity. And if you find yourself in a bad situation, have a safety net, a hand up until you can make it on your own. But I don't want you dependent. I don't want bigger government. I want smaller government. I don't want more politicians to have power. I want them to have less power. They are our employees. If I was running a business someplace, I wouldn't turn over my life insurance policy, the keys to the front door, and all the inventory to them and say, here you go, I hope you do the right thing. You wouldn't do that, would you? Of course not. Well, don't do that with your politicians. They need to be limited in scope of power, and they need to be held accountable. That includes, are you ready for it? Term limits. You do a good job, we'll keep you around. You do a bad job, hit the road. Term limits, campaign finance reform, the whole thing.
And why can't we get rid of the Democrats and get more Republicans or somebody that's not going to sit on their hands and pick their nose and watch videos and play games?
Ted, we did that. I appreciate the call, but we did that. The Republicans have a majority in the House and the Senate. They own the Oval Office. A record number of governors have been elected, Republican governors from coast to coast, and they still can't figure out how to get it right. They need citizen oversight. You got to rise up as Republicans, as Democrats, as independents collectively and say, you know what, we may disagree on certain pieces of legislation. We may disagree on some social things, but at the end of the day, we all have to live on this rock, and we're not going to be dancing to the tune that some politician plays just because he wants a vote. Ted, I appreciate your call very much. Man, I could do another hour. You think I should? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave you alone. That's going to do it for me. Mark Levin is next. God's blessings on each and every one of you, whether you agree with me or not. That's always my priority. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday for your afternoon drive, 2 to 5. Rick Roberts on News Talk 820 WBAP.
That's the only way I know. Don't stop till everything's gone. Straight ahead, never turn around. Don't back up, don't back down. A full throttle, wide open. You get tired and you don't show it. Dig a little deeper when you think you can't dig no more. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know. The only way I know. Oh, get on it one time.
Trending now on WBAP. President Trump releases FISA memo.
The memo was sent to Congress. It was declassified. Congress will do whatever they're going to do. I think it's a disgrace what's happening in our country. And when you look at that and you see that and so many other things, what's going on, a lot of people should be ashamed of themselves, and much worse than that.